Stocks on Wall Street rise on Monday. The Dow hits a new record high, closes nearly 600 points higher. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq too see gains of over 0.5%. The dollar retreats while Treasury yields decline after the United States outs Maduro in Venezuela. Asian markets have opened largely higher, with defense stocks taking the lead as the news of Maduro's capture boosts sentiment. The GIFT Nifty is indicating a positive start for our own markets. Oil prices have edged higher as market weighs the potential impact of geopolitical tensions. Gold and silver prices are also on the upward movement, with copper prices have touching new record highs this morning. Venezuelan President Maduro pleads not guilty to charges of narco-terrorism in a Manhattan federal court. Says, "I am innocent, I am not guilty, I am a decent man, and I am still the president of my country." Russia and China condemn the U.S. actions at the United Nations. Delcy Rodriguez has been sworn in as the interim president of Venezuela. And updates continue from big banks. Kotak Mahindra Bank and Axis Bank report good pre-quarter updates with strong loan and deposit growth, while for IndusInd Bank, both the loan book and the deposit growth have seen a decline in the third quarter. And we'll be reacting to all of those updates later in the day. Good morning. You're watching Power Breakfast right here on CNBC TV 18 in the Mumbai News Center. I'm Hormas Fatakia. Let's first take a look at how the Asian markets have started off this morning. And it's a relatively positive picture across most of the global indices. The Hang Seng is trading with gains of over 1% this morning. It's been a relative underperformer over the last couple of weeks. The Taiwanese index, though, is absolutely flat. And the underperformance, though, is coming from Kospi in South Korea. That index was down around about 0.5% earlier in the day, but has managed to trim some of those losses. Still trading below the flat line, though. Shanghai Composite, well, 0.6% higher. The Nikkei in Japan is also trading with gains of close to 1%. So, barring the Kospi in South Korea and the Taiwanese index, which is flat, most of the other Asian indices have had a positive start to the trading day, carrying on from where Wall Street left off overnight. And pull up the GIFT Nifty. Give you an idea of how our own markets are likely to start off. Well, they are extending the gains. At the start of the first tick showed around a 60-point uptick. Now we have a close to 80-point uptick is what the implied open is suggesting. So, based on where we closed yesterday, we can most likely open around about that 26,300 mark or just above that this morning. Be interesting to see whether these gains sustain, though. Take now look at how the Indian markets are likely to react this morning. Our research team is here with the trade setup, the stocks that are likely to be in the news, and of course the FNO setup as well. First up, Gaurav joins in to get all the market cues that you need to watch out for today. Gaurav, good morning.
Well, good morning. When you look at Nifty, we already saw yesterday Nifty decline almost by 0.3%. So, for today, 26,300 remains a key level to watch out, and the reason being that there was a lot of active calls which were written here. And apart from that, from index wise, if you look at the performance yesterday, we saw Nifty Realty that gained almost 2% in trade, and at the same time Nifty IT was weak. It was down almost by 1.4%. So let's see if Nifty Realty could actually sustain the rally that we have seen yesterday. Apart from that, from stock point of view, we have seen NetWeb, Ola Electric, Sobha, SJVN are a few of the companies who gained more than 5% in trade yesterday. And at the same time, we saw on the losing side was Aether Energy, Sapphire Foods, Devyani, International Premium Energies, who declined more than 5%. So these are the stocks that we will be watching out, specifically if there is any news flow or if there is any sharp movement in these stocks even today. Apart from that, from results point of view, GM Breweries is one stock where we will get the third quarter's result from the company. IEX, this one stock is going to be in focus because this is going to be about the market coupling case that we have seen, and Aptel is going to have their next hearing today. So let's see if any material thing comes out of this hearing. From global cues, we've already seen US and Venezuela conflicts that are going on. Now Venezuela President Mr. Maduro is going to appear in Manhattan Federal Court. So let's see if anything significant is there to read from these developments. And lastly, Zelensky and European leaders are also going to meet today in France. So let's see if anything significant comes from this as well. But all in all, from the global cues, it seems that it is going to be a positive day because Asian markets as well as US markets, which closed yesterday, were showing some green signs and green shoots in a day.
Gaurav, thank you for that update there. Over to Ria now, who would list out the stocks that should be on your radar this morning. Ria, good morning. What's on your list?
Well, good morning, Homers. It's yet another day of quarter three update, starting off with Kotak Mahindra Bank. First, the loan growth has remained strong at 16% on a year-on-year basis. Remember, in the previous quarter as well, it was roughly 15.8%. For Axis Bank, the gross advances and total deposits have seen increases of roughly 14 and 15% respectively. For IndusInd Bank, however, the net advances have declined by 13% and even the deposits have gone down by almost 4% on a year-on-year basis. For L&T Finance, the retail loan book has gone up by roughly 20% compared to the previous year, and Dabur in its quarter three update has said that consolidated revenue will grow in mid-single digits and operating profit will grow ahead of revenue for the company. For IEX, for the month of December, the day-ahead market has gone down by 11.6% on a year-on-year basis, but the key thing to watch out for this stock will be the Appellate Tribunal for Electricity's next hearing regarding the market coupling place that is to take place today after several delays. So that will be the key thing to watch out for this stock. Apart from that, for Trent, for its quarter three update, they have announced that the standalone revenue has gone up by roughly 17% compared to the previous year. And Adani Ports has also come out with its update for the month of December. The cargo handle volume has gone up by roughly 9% on a year-on-year basis for this one. Moving away from the monthly updates, for Wari Energies, an arm of the company has raised roughly 1,003 crores for a 20 gigawatt hour advanced lithium ion cell and battery pack manufacturing facility. For ONGC, a gas leak has been reported at the company during operations at the company's facility in Andhra Pradesh, but no casualty or injuries have been reported yet. Apart from this, there are some management changes to keep your eye out on. For office spaces, Ravi Dugar has resigned as the CFO of the company with effect from the 2nd of February, and in his place, the board has appointed Sumit Rochnani as the CFO. And lastly, for Raymond Lifestyle, Prasad Chator has been appointed as the CFO of the company with effect from the 5th of January.
Ria, thank you for sharing all of those stocks with us. Keep all of those names on your radar in today's session. And lastly, Sudarshan joins in with cues from the FNO space. Sudarshan, good morning. We cooled off ever so slightly from record high levels yesterday, but what is the FNO data indicating on today's weekly expiry?
Good morning, Harma. As you said, it's a weekly expiry day for Nifty, and if we go as per the options data, it's indicating you that market may remain in the range. And for Nifty, that range is likely to be 26,100 on the downside to 26,400 on the upside. The data indicates that expiry for Nifty is likely to be between 26,200 to 26,350. Sentiment, as far as is concerned, sentiment is looking bullish, but upside is capped for now. On the downside, don't see Nifty falling below 26,100 if you go by the options data, because there has been a call writing on the upside, while put writers are covering their old positions. As far as the flows are concerned, in the index futures, we have seen FIs buying more than rupees 400 crore. In the stock futures, they have sold, and that figure was more than rupees 2,500 crore. Now, FI long exposure remains around 11%, while on the short side, the exposure is at 89%. Come to the options data, 26,300 and 26,250 most active call options. Both these options have seen an increase in the open interest, but premium for both these options has fallen. But on the put side, 26,300, 26,250, 26,400, all these put options have seen a fall in the open interest, but premium for all these options has seen a rise. That's the reason I'm telling you that downside also is like Nifty is unlikely to fall below 26,100. So support 26,000 after, because it's the 50-day moving average major technical level. Resistance 26,370, that's the record high. For Nifty Bank, support will be around 59,850 and resistance would be around 60,440. That's the record high. Two stocks are in the band, Sale and Sammaan Capital. Some of the stocks that I'll keep an eye on. PGL Electroplast has been seeing fresh longs for the last 2 days. It's been higher, and Prestige States also has seen fresh longs. On the short side, Jubilant Food has been seeing fresh shorts.
We'll keep an eye out on these names. Sudarshan, thank you for that update there on the FNO space. Take a short break. Continue our coverage on the developments in Venezuela on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, days after the Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife were flown out of their country in a U.S. military operation to face narco-related charges and cocaine importation conspiracy charges in the U.S., the deposed leader, appearing before the U.S. judge, has pleaded not guilty to charges of narco-terrorism. Here is a Reuters report.
Protesters gathered outside a New York federal court on Monday, where inside, toppled Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro stood before a U.S. judge to face charges that could put him behind bars for life. Through an interpreter, Maduro said, "I am innocent. I am not guilty. I am a decent man. I am still president of my country," before being cut off. Maduro faces 4 U.S. federal criminal counts that include narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, and possession of machine guns and destructive devices. His next court date is set for March 17th. His wife, Celia Flores, faces the same charges except for narco-terrorism. She also pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors alleged that as president, Maduro directed cocaine trafficking routes, used the military to protect shipments, sheltered violent trafficking groups, and used presidential facilities to move drugs. He was first indicted in 2020 as part of a long-running narcotics trafficking case against Venezuelan officials and Colombian guerrillas. The 63-year-old has long denied the allegations, saying they're a mask to take Venezuela's rich oil reserves, which U.S. President Donald Trump has made no secret of wanting.
We're in charge.
On Monday, the UN Security Council debated the implications of Trump's raid, which Russia, China, and leftist allies of Venezuela condemned. Venezuela's UN ambassador, Samuel Mancado, said Maduro's arrest has threatened international norms.
Accepting this logic implies opening the door to a profoundly unstable world where countries with greater military capabilities can decide by force the political and economic destiny of other states.
While world leaders and U.S. politicians grappled with the extraordinary seizure of a head of state, an emergency order in Venezuela, published in full on Monday, ordered police to search and capture anyone who supported Saturday's U.S. attack. Also on Monday, Venezuela's vice president and oil minister, Delcy Rodriguez, was formally sworn in as the country's interim president, with words of support for Maduro, but no indication she would fight the U.S. move.
Meanwhile, Russia and China vociferously denounced the U.S. action in Venezuela at an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council on Monday, calling for the immediate release of Venezuela's deposed President Nicolas Maduro and his wife from U.S. custody. And I quote, "There is no and can be no justification for the crimes cynically perpetrated by the United States against Venezuela," end of quote, and that came from Russia's representative to the UN. He also said that the capture and extraction of Maduro breached all international norms. Now, China's deputy UN representative called on the US to release Maduro and his wife, saying that it was deeply shocked by the unilateral, illegal and bullying action taken by the US. He demanded that the US change its course, cease its bullying and coercive practices. Cuba has also condemned the US action, stating that the military action against Venezuela has no justification whatsoever, and this is an imperialist and fascist aggression with objectives of domination. Meanwhile, the US ambassador to the United Nations, Mike Waltz, said that there is no war against Venezuela or its people. Listen into what he had to say.
There is no war against Venezuela or its people. We are not occupying a country. This was a law enforcement operation in furtherance of lawful indictments that have existed for decades. The United States arrested a narco trafficker who is now going to stand trial in the United States in accordance with the rule of law for the crimes he's committed against our people.
Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer maintained his position of a peaceful transition to democracy in Venezuela. Listen into what he had to say.
The position of this government is that what we need in Venezuela is a peaceful transition to democracy. That was our position Before this weekend, it remains our position. The president was illegitimate and caused untold misery across Venezuela. International law is the framework, is the anchor or the benchmark against which we judge the actions of all other governments. And it is, of course, for the US to justify the action that it has taken. It is not straightforward, it is complicated, and even today there are further developments. But I won't shy away from the fact that international law is the framework and is the benchmark.
Let us also now listen to some experts reacting to the current situation between the US and Venezuela.
I think it's going to not turn out well, not turn out to be a wise decision from the perspective of American policy or for American interests. We tend to forget that it's much easier to break things than it is to build things. And it's much easier to topple a regime than it is to replace it with something better. And I don't want to be too haunted by history, but I think if we look at the recent experience, let's say even the last 3 decades for the US, if we look at Afghanistan or Iraq or other instances in which we thought a bad regime was bad, which certainly Maduro was, but that we could engage in regime change successfully, we failed. And I think in the end, this will turn out to be a failure.
The real question is to what extent is there a meeting of the minds between the successor leadership in Venezuela and the Trump administration? I mean, let's just take a step back for a second. Whatever else happened over the last few days, it wasn't regime change. It was simply leadership change. Mr. Maduro got shipped out. We now have his former vice president running things. And the question is there a meeting of the minds between, say, her and Marco Rubio on such things as American access to energy reserves, participation of American companies? Is there an understanding on drug trafficking, perhaps on Venezuelan support for Cuba and so forth? And if there is, my guess is the administration will simply work out a new relationship with this successor regime. And if there's not, then the administration faces some really difficult choices about what it's prepared to do and whether it's prepared to escalate pressure or escalate its involvement.
Most nations end up being poorer relative to the United States after they discover oil or other commodities. So there's a real curse of commodities also to add to Venezuela, that having too much oil is in fact not a good thing because it is what sows the seeds for economic mismanagement, much more corruption. The nations that truly succeed are those that function on manufacturing, technology, and stuff. So I'm not that optimistic on what Venezuela itself is going to do. But yeah, it's been such a basket case that from here, I guess there's only upside. And the Venezuelan bonds have begun to price that. In fact, they were sniffing this action that was happening. And so from here, I do see a better path for Venezuela. But in general, I'm not a big bull in the long term on investing in nations that are rich in commodities, because that's what sows the seeds for economic mismanagement and corruption.
On to action from Wall Street then, which completely shrugged off all of these weekend developments and the economic concerns as well. At the Dow Jones ending almost 600 points higher at a record high level. Intraday it also crossed the mark of 49,000, while the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq also saw gains of close to 0.7%. Almost all the energy stocks were higher in yesterday's session as well. Now, let's also now listen in to Neel Kashkari, the President and CEO of the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, as he shares his outlook for the U.S. economy in 2026.
I think the unemployment rate is pretty clean at 4.6%. When I talk to businesses in my region, they also say they're not hiring very much. So I think that that's a clear signal that the labor market is cooling. At the same time, inflation is still too high. I think the most recent inflation data I don't take that seriously because there's some issues with the data collection with the shutdown. I think inflation is still too high. And the big question in my mind is how tight is monetary policy? Over the last couple of years, we kept thinking the economy is going to slow down, and the economy has proven to be far more resilient than I had expected. That tells me, well, monetary policy must not be putting that much downward pressure on the economy. And so my guess is we're pretty close to neutral right now, and we just need to get more data to see which is the bigger force. Is it inflation or is it the labor market? and then we can move from a neutral stance.
We'll take a short break here on Power Breakfast. Cues from the commodities market on the other side. Welcome back. On to cues from the commodities market. Manisha is here with all of those updates. Manisha, good morning. Never a dull day.
Never ever, yes. And if you look at the metal prices, those are the ones that have gained the most and the best overnight markets. If you look at platinum, that was up 6.5% overnight. Copper gained 5%. Silver was up 5.5%. Gold gained almost 3%. So that's the kind of move that you've seen come in for tangible commodities. But also remember, these are fund allocations. There is index rebalancing is happening as well, which always does in the first half of January every year. So we're looking at money coming back in many of these metals. Copper is hitting record highs on LME in Shanghai and in the UK markets as well. There are concerns over potential US tariffs coming back into the market. And then there is a strike at Chile's mine as union members seek larger share of profits. Remember, copper gained 45% in the last year. So these kind of negotiations will start coming up and you'll see support in copper because of that. But not just copper. Aluminum is trading at a 3-year high. You have nickel trading at a 1-year high. Iron ore prices, which fell in the previous year, also have started 2026 on a positive note. And then you have zinc trading at a 14-month highs as well. So it clearly is metals all the way today morning.
Metals all the way indeed, as has been the case for the last month or so now. Manisha, thank you for that update there. Take your leave on this edition of Power Breakfast from me and the team. Thank you so much for watching. Bazaar Morning Call on the other side to set you up for the day's trade.